If you grew up in the early 2000s, then you probably grew up listening to Linkin Park, spiking your hair, putting a chain on your wallet, and watching Orange County Choppers, because it was an explosive time in the world of custom V-twin motorcycles, choppers specifically. And although that era was a lot of fun, the motorcycle side of things from that time period is not necessarily so fondly remembered. That's because a lot of the bikes from the world of Orange County Choppers and some other similar builders didn't age that well. In hindsight, they maybe don't actually look that good. They didn't function very well. But even though most of the bikes from that era were admittedly pretty bad, there are a few gems that slip through the cracks. The motorcycle in front of me now comes from a company called Exile Cycles, and it's operated by a bike builder named Russell Mitchell. And he built these very industrial, minimalist, simple motorcycles, some of which would qualify as choppers, though admittedly, despite the headline, this bike, not so much of a chopper. We've got shorter front end, much shorter bars, but this is still a product of the early 2000s when these V-twin custom motorcycles were exploding onto the scene. This bike was manufactured in 2001, and despite that, it's actually aged pretty well. Because this motorcycle lacks the bright paintwork and over-the-top bodywork that a lot of motorcycles from this era fell victim to, arguably it's aged much better. It does certainly have a massive 230 width rear tire on a 15-inch wheel, which is pretty unusual, so you can tell that that's not something you see that much today. But looks aside, there were some really impressive things going on with a lot of these motorcycles being built around this time period. And I wish you could reach through the screen and feel how perfectly pieces like this cap match up to this oil tank and thread in beautifully. These are really, really top quality components. There's also a lot of creativity going on in design. Take, for example, this rear sprocket that doubles as the rear brake to clean up the other side of the wheel when it's parked on the kickstand. The horn and even the high beam switch are also hidden here into the grip so that you don't have any unsightly switchgear on the handlebars. This bike also has a really cool open primary that is completely exposed, so you see the belt whipping around while the engine is running, and this is a dry clutch that makes some really cool noises. It doesn't sound as rattly as a Ducati dry clutch, and this cover stops spinning when you pull the clutch in, so you can see that operation in real time. And this belt also has a whirring sound that kind of reminds you a little bit of a supercharger when it's under load and actually going down the road, which is all really cool stuff.
Now, one of the many ways in which this motorcycle is unusual is its starting procedure, and what guy doesn't love an unusual and crazy starting procedure? So first step, you press these compression releases at the top of each head so that the starter motor actually has a chance of getting this 1800cc V-twin fired up. Next, you look around the bike and you notice there's no start switch up here on the handlebar. It's because instead it uses a key underneath the seat, and you actually turn that key to turn over the bike like you would on a car, instead of just turning the ignition on and pressing a button for your starter like most motorcycles. So typically what I do is I'll hop on the bike, use my left hand on the throttle, my right hand on the key, and that way I can blip the throttle a little bit just to get the bike fired up. But once it's running, you can see that spinning primary like I mentioned. Currently the clutch cover is spinning as well because the clutch is out. If I pull clutch in, that cover stops moving, and you hear a little bit more of the sound that dry clutch makes. And it goes away when you let the clutch out. So it's a really interesting system. And it also makes a pretty crazy sound. So from the very moment you sit on this motorcycle and fire it up, it doesn't feel like any other bike you've been on. And that's not going to change once you get riding.
And like with the rest of the components on this bike, this 113 cubic inch V-twin from TP, Total Performance Engineering, is beautifully finished and really nicely made. And though it's hard to tell, this bike is actually a softail, granted with very little travel, but there are 2 shocks underneath the frame hidden out of sight. And aside from a brake line and a clutch cable, you really don't see much of any cables coming off of the bars, which makes the entire front end of the bike very, very clean.
Now, despite how violent the engine in this motorcycle is, there are parts of it that are actually very refined. If I kick it into first gear, it's absolutely dead silent and completely smooth. You wouldn't believe that it's in first gear until you start letting out on the clutch, because it makes no noise at all. And in general, this transmission is very smooth and very refined because these are really high quality components. It's a beautifully built bike. The other funky thing about this motorcycle is that there's so much rotating mass and the tires are so wide that it is really a very stable bike at low speed. You can turn it very slowly and stay upright very easily with little balancing that you have to do to keep it upright. But it's a strange motorcycle to turn, without a doubt, because these tires are just so massive. Now, as the road straightens out, I'll give it some throttle, because I'm sure everyone wants that. Look, it is extremely violent when you accelerate hard on this bike. It shakes out your fillings because it's a hard-mounted V-twin, and a big one at that. Granted, this is not a fast motorcycle by definitely any sport bike rider's definition, but that's not really the point. The idea of this motorcycle is that it's an experience. It doesn't ride like anything else. It's got a lot of attitude, a lot of motor, and in that it succeeds 100%. This bike is a hoot to ride, if you want to call it that. It's kind of a cheesy way to describe it, but it's not like anything else. I've put sport bike riders on this motorcycle before, and they come back with a huge smile on their face. Now, this one in particular, it is about 25 years old. There's a few pieces of maintenance that it could definitely use. This rear tire is still date coded 01, so it's original to the bike, and that needs to change. This 230 width rear tire is not the easiest thing to find. I've been looking around and I think I spotted one, so I should be having that on the way because they said it was in stock. So there are a few bits and pieces you got to look around for a little bit. I have to get a little rebuild kit for this front brake master because it's leaking some fluid as well, and there's an oil leak underneath in one of the hoses for me to fix up. So a few minor things. Most of the parts, they're still available, and in general it's a very simple motorcycle, so there's not that much to go wrong on it, which means it's generally a pretty easy thing to live with, because that's certainly been a concern for a lot of people with custom bikes from this era, is that they're so badly made and they're going to be a total nightmare for you to try and run them and ride them. Once again, that may be true for some, but not all of the bikes out of this era. This one in particular, like I said, I've been around this bike my entire life, and it's never been particularly problematic. I think it's actually a really well put together machine.
Now, this bike is out here in Colorado with me because it belonged to my father since new. He commissioned Russell Mitchell to build it back in the day. So I've known this bike ever since I was 3 years old. It's really the first motorcycle that I was exposed to. And just this past Christmas, I was lucky enough to receive it as a gift from him. So it's a really huge deal for me. And this is a motorcycle I've loved my whole life and that I plan to keep for the rest of my life. So this is a bike that you'll definitely be seeing around. We'll be filming some more videos with it. And I also want to say a quick thanks to Scott and the team over at Rider Justice. We've been working with them for the last several years because they do a really good job of representing motorcyclists especially. You can also work with them even if you're in an incident in your car, and they work with people all over the country. So if you ever need legal representation, then make sure you call Scott first. And you can check them out using the link below. Now, to wrap things up, yes, there are a lot of bad motorcycles, arguably bad motorcycles that came out of this era. I don't want to make any blanket statements for this exact reason, because there are also many great motorcycles fun innovations and creativity that came out of this time period. And although it's not remembered fondly by a lot of motorcycle riders, there is something there. It was a really cool era, and not all of it was bad. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. That's all for this video, and we'll see you next time.